Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we're looking at the reasons why teachers are currently thinking about going on strike. So the National Educational Union, or the NEU, is currently having a kind of representative ballot, thinking about it ballot. They've sent some emails out and they're getting people or teachers that are part of their membership to vote on whether or not they think strike action is a good idea. And that is all based around the teachers' pay award they were given out right in the last week of the summer term in the previous academic year. And it's about whether or not teachers are happy with that, whether or not it's about whether it's enough, whether it's looking at if it's funded the right way. And we're going to get into all of those different things today in this video to try and give you an idea about why teachers are currently looking at striking. And I think there's a few important reasons that they are currently looking at that and whether or not that's the right thing for them. And it's important to remember throughout all this is it's up to each individual teacher to decide. So this is not a video to decide whether or not it's the right thing to do. It's not a video to look at whether or not you should be striking or not, and I'm not trying to persuade you in either direction. I'm just trying to give you the facts behind the reasons why teachers are looking at possibly or possibly not doing it. So can you please remember that in the comments down below? Do let me know what your theory is, what your thoughts are, what your opinion is about the possible strike action. But also, can we please make sure that we're not condemning anyone, that kind of thing, because it's all about whether or not each individual teacher thinks it's the right thing to do. And hopefully this can give you a bit of an idea as to why they're thinking that. So the first and the most important reason, in my view, that teachers are currently looking at striking is about the funding of the pay award. So if we forget for a minute how much teachers got awarded and how much the pay rise was, and I will go into that in a few minutes in the rest of this video, but that bit to me is not the most important part of this strike action. The most important part is about the funding. So when teachers got awarded the pay rise, first of all, it was, in my view, a decent amount, but the government didn't give the schools any extra money to give this award to teachers. So when schools have a certain amount of money per child in each school and they have a total pot of money, and all that money is basically spent on either teachers or the children, and a large chunk of it is on the staffing. And so when teachers get given a pay rise, which is fantastic for teachers, when they give them that pay rise, the money should normally, or in my view, should come from the government into the extra funding into the school to be given to the teachers. However, this pay rise was given as an unfunded pay rise. So schools were told, all of your staff and support staff also got a pay rise as well. It's important to remember. So teaching assistants got given a pay rise too. The government told the schools actually you have to give your teachers that pay rise, but you have to find it out of your own existing budgets. So that means that the children that are in the schools are actually going to have less. Because if you had, let's call it £1,000, I know it's completely unrepresentative, but it's easy to imagine. You had £1,000, you had two teachers that each got paid £100 each. Now that meant you've got £800 left to give to the children for books, for lessons, for trips, for everything else that goes on in a school. However, all of a sudden those two teachers now actually need to get paid £150 each. You'd expect, therefore, that the government, who's given that pay rise, would then give the schools an extra £50 each to pay those teachers. However, they didn't. So now the schools have still got their £1,000 and they've now only got £700 to give to the children. And that, to me, is one of the issues that I have with the pay rise and the reward. I believe that the schools should have been given that extra pot of money to give to teachers and to give to support staff so it doesn't impact on the children's learning, it doesn't impact on the children's experience in school. And based on that, I'm just currently sat editing the video, and I actually filmed it probably close to a week ago now. But while I was editing this video, I also had another video out explaining like the kind of facts behind the strike action or the possible strike action and kind of the dates and what's going on. And someone actually commented on that video exactly what I've just been talking about. So I've put that comment up here on the screen for you now. And you can see how actually it's agreeing, other teachers are agreeing with the same thing. Even this teacher says she doesn't normally go for strike action, doesn't normally do it, but this time it is different. And it's mainly due to the funding of the school pay rises and the fact that it hasn't been funded at all. So this seems like it's quite an important issue. And I think for me, it's probably the biggest issue I've got with the pay rise that was awarded. And so I will go into all the other points first, but yeah, you can see that this is one of those really, really important ones that teachers are really feeling the strain on when you look at schools and their budgets and the money that's getting taken away from the children. And this at a time when schools' energy bills have been rising massively, and prior to the latest intervention, there was no limit because they act as a business. There was no limit on the cap. There was no cap for schools' energy bills, so they were going up massively. And cost of living generally, everything is going up. So it was a really, really tough decision. And I think it was something that I don't think the government really thought through when they first did it. But yeah, I do believe that the schools should have been given that extra bit of money to fund the pay rise if it was awarded. And there's another discussion about whether or not it should have been awarded. The previous year it wasn't awarded because of COVID and public sector pay as a whole, they weren't given those pay rises. And that's another discussion for another time. But the fact is they did award the pay rise, and they've actually ended up taking money away from the children in schools to give it to the teachers. And that's something that I disagree with. I don't believe that that money should be coming from the children from the schools. It should be an extra bit of money given by the government to schools. So that's reason number one why some teachers are looking at strike action. The second reason that the NEU has put this forward to teachers to vote on is because of the amount of pay. So I have put a video up before about the pay rise that was awarded in the last week, and about whether or not it was the right amount. And it was kind of a variable rise. So the teachers at the top of the teaching pay scale were given around about a 5% pay rise. I think it was 4.9% to be precise. And the teachers at the bottom of the pay scale were given around about, I think it was 8 or 9% pay rise. And then as you go up the ladder, the pay rise obviously decreases down to that 4.9%. So that was, first of all, some teachers had issues over that. They said, actually, the teachers that have been teaching for such a long amount of time, why are they getting such a smaller pay rise? They've put the hours in, they've put the years in, they've worked their way up to the top of the ladder. Why are they not deserving of a pay rise that's the same as the teachers that are first coming in? Now, the government said this was because they obviously get a bigger increase on a smaller percentage. But when you look at the cost of living, that is going up by about 10%. Inflation's around about 10% now. So the NEU's issue isn't in terms of whether or not teachers deserve more or less at what level of the pay rise or the pay scale, but actually that the teachers at the top and the teachers at the bottom all got a pay rise that's actually less than inflation. So in real terms, it's a pay cut. Everything is getting about 10% more expensive, and teachers are getting between 5 and 9% more money. So that means they're between 5 and 1% worse off in the next year. And so that's one of the issues they had. They said actually teachers should be getting a pay rise in line with inflation. And I know at the minute the government is talking about all sorts of things with inflation. There's all sorts of stuff going on with the markets. I'm not going to get too much into that. Whether or not you think that's the right thing, let me know in the comments down below. They believe that teachers should be getting a pay rise in line with inflation, in line with how much everything is going up. And again, that's something where there's strike action going on across the country and across the world at the minute with this kind of issue. There's the Royal Mail strikes going on. I think there's a port in Liverpool, one of the biggest ports in the country, there's workers currently striking. The train drivers have been striking lots over the summer holidays and have got some more coming up in the future. It's not a thing that is just subject to teaching. There's lots and lots of strikes going on over this same thing, over how high inflation is and over how, therefore, pay across the board is not going up at the same pace. Now, again, I'm not trying to tell you that this is the right or the wrong thing. And it's something that I do agree with the NEU about. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to vote for striking. I have not decided how I'm going to vote when I come to do my ballot. But it's an important reason behind the strikes, about whether or not you believe that the funding for schools is enough. If you're wanting to look a bit more into this, then the NEU has actually posted a lot of evidence collated over the last, I think it's about over the last decade, of all sorts of things to do with teachers' pay and inflation and whether it's about the cost of living. And they put a lot more evidence out there that is probably explains it a lot better than I can. So I will try and put a link in the description down below of this, where you can find this evidence, and hopefully you can go have a look and make up your own minds. But like I said at the start of the video, I'd love to hear your points of view. Do you think these reasons are enough for teachers to strike? Do you think actually there's not enough reason they shouldn't be striking? And what do you think? I know the government has pretty obviously said they don't believe teachers should be striking. I think the government would say that about any profession that is talking about going on strike. So I'd like to know the public's point of view. What do you guys think about whether or not teachers should be striking? Now, it is coming to the end of the kind of initial ballot, and so by about mid-October we should know whether or not the NEU is going to put forward a proper official ballot on whether or not we will be asked to strike. And I know the NEU is very much in favour of a strike, so I think it'll be interesting to see what does happen next. Hopefully, going forward, at least this video will hopefully give you guys some sense of an idea as why teachers are looking at it. And I do think some of the reasons they give are very good. I don't know whether they are enough to go on strike, and I'm going to have to make my own mind up the same way you guys are. But it's something that is probably coming in the future of maybe this school year, and it's something that we'll have to see what goes on at that point. So hopefully you found this video useful. As always, there's a new video on Tuesday, a Friday and a Sunday. And I am trying to mix up the videos a little bit, some teaching videos, some other videos. So if there's anything you want to see, then do let me know and I will try and do that for you. And as always, I will hopefully see you all very soon.